and welcome to another episode of the Tar Heels Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Grant Chachere, bringing you all the latest details in regards to UNC athletics, whether that be football, basketball, baseball, and really any other sport. Anything that is worth discussing, we're going to discuss about. And really, to be honest with you, they're all worth discussing about. But this week, it's a very, very important. Well, I would say not important week for the Tar Heels, but it's a pretty good week for the Tar Heels. And before we get to that, make sure to like our Facebook page. Make sure to go follow our Facebook page, North Carolina Tar Heels on SI, and also make sure to go follow us on Twitter at Tar Heels on SI. And then also make sure to go check out our website, si.com/college/UNC. where you can find all the latest content in regards to your North Carolina Tar Heels. But this is a really good week for North Carolina. This is a very, very good week because there's a lot of opportunity here, right? This week you go up against Richmond, which is an FCS opponent, and usually those games are, I wouldn't say gimmies, but those are games you should win, and really those are good weeks for development for a lot of the players on the team. And it's not really just for usually a lot of times when I say that it's for the younger players, of course, right? This is a great opportunity for the younger players to step in and get valuable reps. However, because of the fact that you added 70 new players, 40 of which have come after the spring, you're trying to build up chemistry. You're trying to get them to really hone in on the playbook because you really haven't had a lot of time with 40 new players, as I said, added after the spring. So you need as much time as possible, right? You need as much time as possible. And you go up against a pretty solid Richmond team. Richmond was a top 25 team at the FCS level entering the season. They're 1-1. Their one loss was against Lehigh, who's one of the better FCS teams right now. And looking at the rankings, the FCS rankings, Lehigh is the number 12 team in the country at the FCS level. That's the only loss. And it was I believe it was a 21-14 ball game. I think that's what this final score was. 21-14 at Lehigh, by the way. So they went up to Lehigh to play. And Richmond, of course, is in their first year of the Patriot League. Lehigh has been empowering the Patriot League for a pretty long time. But two top 25 teams went at it, one lost and one won. That's basically how it goes. And then last week they defeated Wofford. And the thing about Richmond is that they're not really the best offensive team. They've only scored 14 points in both their games, which is, in two games, 14, you average 14 points a game, right? Kyle Wickersham is probably arguably their best player. But really, if you look at their offensive numbers, they averaged 226.5 yards per game. Actually, they allowed, and the thing is, their defense allows 228 yards per game. So they actually have gained less yards than they have allowed, which is pretty wild. Because they only allow 220 yards per game. That's the number that if you look at the stats, you look at the leaders in total defense in regards to team stats. If you look at the leaders in total defense, they're ninth. I mean, this is a bona fide top 10, top 15 defense. So number 9 in total defense. They're number 10 in passing yards allowed. They're 7th in third down defense. And then, of course, they're 17th in scoring defense. They're 19th in rushing defense. And they're 18th in sacks. I mean, the only really bad sideline they have is 86. They're 86 in tackles for loss. But other than that, I mean, they are solidly in a top 25 defense in almost every single category. And really, the total defense and passing defense, I mean, they're top 10. This is a bona fide top 10 defense. I mean, it really is. And I think that will pose troubles for North Carolina, right? Because if there's one thing we have harped on the whole entire season has been the offensive struggles. I mean, the offense has been bad. They scored only 14 points against TCU. And yes, TCU is a very good team. And everyone played bad in that game, but there was no identity in the first game. And in the second game, they found some sort of an identity, but there was no execution. It also didn't help that Chris Culliver was hurt. Literally, I'm not even joking. Like when he got here's the offense was rolling pretty smoothly when Chris Culliver was in the game in terms of their passing offense. But once he got out, I mean, it was really nothing. And as great as Jordan Shipp is, you need another guy that can step up and be the number 2 guy. But for the number 2 guy, you really want him to be kind of a speedster because there really isn't that much speed in this offense. I mean, George Shipp's not a speedster. He's more of a possession receiver. He's a guy that you can rely on to get between 7 to 10 catches, often around between 75 and 90, 95 yards. That's the type of receiver he is. But you need a guy who can push the ball up the field vertically, and that's what Chris Culliver is. And you saw that against Charlotte. And then when you took him out the game, I mean, the offense changed. I mean, they scored 17 points in the first half, which is the only half he played. The second half, only 3. I mean, this is an offense that has been lethargic. It's been bad. And I'm not going to – some people are saying, well, maybe you should put Max Johnson. And I don't know, man. And the reason why I say that is because Max Johnson, as good as he looked against TCU, you got to remember this. That was when TCU was up 41-7. So they laxed off a bit. And then number 2, I don't know if Max Johnson is the answer to the offense's problems. And the reason why I say that is because, number 1, Max isn't as athletic as Gio. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that he almost lost his leg, right? If you look at the Charlotte game, Gio evaded several sack attempts and was able to run for a few extra yards, even a first down, right? He extended drives because of his legs. And that is very important, especially when you have an offensive line that's kind of so-so at the moment, or really even worse than so-so. I mean, it hasn't been very good. That's the type of guy you want as your quarterback. But the problem is, but even if you do put Max Johnson as a quarterback, the biggest issue to me, well, the 2 biggest issues with the offense have been obviously the offensive line, right? The offensive line is great at pass blocking, but terrible at run blocking. So you need to have diversity in the offense, and that's something you don't have at the moment because the offensive line struggles. And then on top of that, you have Freddie Kitchens, who's your offensive play caller, who really has been questionable, right? And a lot of people question that Belichick's hiring of Freddie Kitchens. And then not only that, he's showing you in 2 games already why he was a questionable hire. And really, against Richmond, if you don't score, let's say, if you don't score over 30 points, or really, not 30 points, 35 points offensively. I'm not talking about defensive touchdowns. I'm talking about on the offense. If you don't score 5 touchdowns this game, then North Carolina is going to have is going to be in a heap of trouble for the rest of the year. Because next week you have to go up to Orlando, and UCF's a good team. They're a top 25 offense, and that is a recipe for disaster. The bounce house is a very tough place to play. I mean, it's not. I mean, you have to figure out who you are this week, because if you struggle against Richmond, you go to UCF. That's a game at this moment in time. I originally had them beating UCF, but now I'm looking at that game. I'm like, and the way UCF's been playing, it's not looking good for the Tar Heels. And on top of that, then you have the bye week, which is good, right? You get to rest up and everything. But then you got Clemson, and you got Clemson the first ACC game of the year, which I think that's a game they're going to lose. But then you have another bye week, right? Which that's a weird situation. We have a game in between 2 bye weeks, but then you got to travel to Cal, and Cal's looking pretty good at the moment. They have a decent quarterback at the helm, and on top of that, you have to travel 3,000 miles to go play the California Golden Bears. Then you got to welcome in Virginia, and Virginia is looking like a much better team because they actually have a quarterback. Chandler Morris was lighting up NC State, lighting them up. Right? Then you got to travel to Syracuse, which is another tough place to play. Then you got Stanford, which they're going to win that game. Stanford's awful, right? And if UNC loses to Stanford, like, I don't know if Belichick should be even the coach anymore. If they lose against Stanford, let's just say that. Because Stanford is awful. Awful. I watched them play against Hawaii. They're awful, right? Then you got Wake Forest, and that's a winnable game too, but it's a rivalry game. It's a road game. You're playing at their place. Who knows, right? Then you got Duke, who I know they got killed by Illinois, but they have a really solid quarterback in. They have a really solid quarterback. What's Darian Mensah? Darian Mensah is a really good quarterback. I don't know why I was blanking on his name. Like, I mentioned his name all the time. But Darian Mensah is a really good quarterback. I'm very familiar with him. Like I said, I used to cover sports in Louisiana. He was a quarterback at Tulane, which is in New Orleans. Very, very good quarterback. And right now, he's 4th in the country in passing yards, by the way. Just wanted to point that out. And then, of course, you got NC State on the road. And that's playing at Carter Finley is always a very tough place to play. So you really, really need to kind of figure everything out. And it starts this week against Richmond. And Richmond, I think that's a game UNC should win. And really, I think they are going to win. But the reason why this game is important, because you want to see the offense have momentum. And if they still cannot gain momentum against this Richmond team, who, yes, they have one of the best defenses at the FCS level. They do. But you have more talent than Richmond. You have more talent, kind of similar to Charlotte. You have more talent than Charlotte. But if you cannot move the ball up the field, if you do not show more progress than the week before, it's going to be a long season in Chapel Hill. It will be a long, long, long season in Chapel Hill, y'all. That's going to wrap it up today for this episode of the Tar Heel Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Grant Chachere. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.